Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy Austin here with my buddy Matt, aka Yoshi, aka going by different names right now. We're calling this podcast from the sidelines. We're just trying to start up a little sports podcast here and just kind of keep it going because we're all into fucking NFL, college, NCAA, everything that's going on right now, NBA. So I guess we're just gonna get into it with the college football playoff, and then we'll roll into NFL or NBA or whatever. I think probably NFL next, but got the college football playoff coming up right now, and I think we didn't post the last one that we just did, but honestly, everything lined up pretty much how we thought it would, other than maybe TCU and Ohio State, because I know me and you were talking about either TCU or Ohio State was going to be the 3 or the 4, obviously. And especially since TCU lost, I thought there was maybe a chance they'd be the 4. But either way, this is pretty much what everybody expected.
Yeah. I wish they were the three, just because the obvious rematch against Michigan. Because now, obviously, they have to go through Georgia, which is a lot harder, to potentially get a rematch. Because I think Michigan, they are going to beat TCU, but the Ohio State Georgia game is more of a toss up. I do think Georgia will win, but I just wish that it was another Ohio State Michigan off the start.
Yeah, and me being the Ohio State fan, like I think there's two ways that game's going to play out. Either Ohio State in a close win or Georgia in a blowout. That's the only two ways I see that game going.
I don't think Georgia would blow out Ohio State. I don't think. I think it would be somewhat of a low scoring game, is my guess. I think it would be for college anyway. I think it would be one of those scores where it's like maybe a 28-24 type score.
Yeah, I could see that. And then for honestly with Michigan and TCU, I know I definitely would pick Michigan too to win, but I think that's going to be a way harder game than what me and a lot of people think for Michigan. Like I honestly think TCU is going to have a good game against them, and whether Michigan wins or not, I think it's going to be a lot fucking tougher of a game than they're expecting. Because Duggan's
Yeah,
been
I
balling
mean,
out all year. I mean, he's definitely getting considered for a Heisman.
I was about to say I believe he's one of the Heisman candidates. But yeah, I mean, I want TCU. I'll root for TCU just because I feel like out of the four schools in it, they're obviously the underdog. I would say most people think they are anyway.
Oh,
So I would want them to win just because that's what they're going in as. So
they're definitely the big time underdog, but I can't help but obviously pull. I know a lot of people are probably pulling for it. If you're not a fan of the SEC or TCU, you feel like majority of the country probably wants a Ohio State Michigan rematch in the Natty.
oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's why I just wish that they had, even though it wouldn't be for the championship, but I just wish they had the potential to at least guarantee a another matchup together. Because again, going through Georgia, that's tough.
But I do think the biggest problem for Georgia with this is honestly Ohio State's offense. That's out of both these games. I know. I don't know if you know who Joel Klatt is. I'm sure a lot of people do. He's like just the biggest, probably one of the biggest college football analysts. But he was talking about it, and I honestly 100% agree because even though Georgia, I would probably pick them to beat Ohio State if I was betting on it. But it's just like Alabama last year. Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship last year with just straight up pretty much offense. And I think Ohio State does have the offense even after getting blown out by Michigan. I think their offense can at least give Georgia a run for their money.
Yeah, I mean Georgia also, I believe, I remember correctly, at least on the run, I believe they have the best run defense in all of college football. And as far as just overall defense, I still think they're a top 10, maybe top 5 in all of college. So,
I mean, they
and
gotta
Ohio State,
be.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ohio State, I know, has a stacked offense. I mean, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., for example. But even still, like a top offense versus a top defense, yeah, it's going to be a good game.
For sure. And honestly, guys, we'll talk about the college football playoff a lot more and a lot more in depth the closer we get to it. We just wanted to kind of go over it again. We're just kind of freeballing everything right now, especially because we made a video specifically about the college football playoff predictions and all that kind of stuff, like the top 6 teams and everything before USC lost and all that. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened, and that's what a lot of people are thinking too. But I think we can honestly move it over to NFL because there's a lot more to talk about in the NFL going on right now,
Yeah.
especially with
I
the goat Deshaun Watson coming back.
oh yeah, I mean he has another game coming up this week against the Bengals, and the Browns have always owned Joe Burrow since he's been in the NFL. So,
It's gonna be
um,
interesting, man.
yeah, I think that'll be good. I mean, I have Deshaun on my fantasy team. Second week in a row starting him. Hopefully, he's better than what he did last week because he was pretty useless last week, but they still won.
And I just pulled up the standings. I'm sure like this might be honestly since I've been alive. I'm 24, and this might be the craziest year for NFL that I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, you have a team such as the obvious Denver Broncos. I don't know. People thought they potentially could have come out on top in the AFC West.
I thought they were
They're
gonna
now,
definitely be a wild card or playoff, get into the playoffs.
yeah, I would say a lot of people out of the AFC West thought at least three of those teams, probably the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos. I mean, some people probably also thought the Raiders too, but those three teams specifically would make the playoffs, and it just looks like it's going to be the Chiefs as of right this second coming out of there.
I mean, it's theirs to lose for sure.
It is. I still think the Chiefs are the best team in football. Although, if we were to do power rankings currently, I wouldn't put them at the top just because they lost last week. But I still think they are, in my opinion, the favorite to come out of the AFC. Not them, then probably the Bills.
And then on the NFC side, obviously you got the NFC East, and I got everything pulled up just so I'm not trying to overthink things right now, but it's wild, obviously. I mean, we all knew the Eagles were going to be at least a good team, but I don't think anybody would have picked that they'd be 11-1 right now.
No, I
And
thought preseason I predicted the Dallas Cowboys to win that division. I would think a lot of people probably predicted the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles, they did make the playoffs last year, I think, as the seventh seed, if I'm not mistaken. But
I know they made it last year.
yeah, they lost to Tampa in the first round. But I think a lot of people thought they'd probably make the playoffs, or at least make a playoff run, but not be 11-1 going
Including
into.
everybody else in their division being playoff contenders, too.
Yeah, every single team in there would make the playoffs, I believe, if it started right this second, which I think three of the four will. I think the team that falls off will be the Giants. I think the Commanders will actually sneak in, though. Um, but yeah, even just then you have a team like the San Francisco 49ers just in the staying in the same conference. I wonder what they're going to be like going forward because obviously you had Trey Lance, he got hurt. Then you had Jimmy basically playing the rest of the season. He just got hurt. And now you have the Mr. Irrelevant pick, Brock Purdy, coming in. So I'm actually really curious to see what's going on with them
And he
going
finished out
into the
that game,
playoffs.
but they have all the pieces around him to still contend if he can be at least a 500 quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers have arguably, or they just have the best defense in football. So they're fine on that side. They have Christian McCaffrey, who you could make an argument is the best running back in
When he's
football.
healthy anyway.
Yeah. And then you have a decent receiving core of Debo, Brandon Ayuk. Well, Kittle's a tight end, but he's still useful. But yeah, I mean, they definitely have the pieces. It's just, I don't know I mean, no one really knows what he's like. He had a decent game, though, the other day.
And you got Geno Smith, who's pretty much a god out of nowhere this season after being in the
Oh, yeah.
league for like 8 years, 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think this is the first time he's been a starter since like his second year in the league, I believe, when he was on the Jets and really useless. I mean, he's going to win comeback player of the year. He's definitely going to.
Yeah, that's not
Um,
even a question.
I mean, Seattle before the season started, people were saying maybe 3 wins max for that team, and they're probably going to make the playoffs too.
Oh, for sure. We were talking a lot of shit about the Seahawks this year.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people were. It's because we're like, I thought it was going to be the Falcons or them as the worst team in football. Both of them. I mean, the Falcons aren't making the playoffs, but they've still exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, and then another team
Um,
that I didn't expect was the Cardinals to be where they're at right now.
yeah, I don't think a lot of people thought the Cardinals would be. I don't think a lot of people had high expectations for them, but I don't think they thought 4-8 after 12 games either.
I
I
thought
would have thought maybe
playoff
6 or
contention for
6.
sure.
I mean, the biggest one in their division, the Rams. You
Yeah.
go from winning the Super Bowl to 4-9,
And now you got the
and
big pickup with Baker, who didn't have a great game, but they still won. So I mean,
yeah, game-winning drive.
I really want to be a Baker fan. I want him to do good. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I guess we'll keep seeing because a win's a win every week.
Yeah, I mean, they had Cooper Cup Jr. having a good game the other day. Ben Skornek, or however you say his last name, but um, he, I mean, there's no receiving on that team because Cooper is injured. I don't know if he's coming back at all this year, but I know
You know
he's
what
on
the
IR.
I don't even know what the injury was actually.
It was, I believe it was his foot. It was a bad pass. He jumped for it, and it just, yeah. And people were blaming the backup quarterback as he threw the ball to him.
So it wasn't an ACL or Achilles or anything.
No, I don't think so. I think it was like it was his foot.
I guess either way, that usually anything that's even somewhat serious with the foot's probably like 6 weeks or minimum.
Yeah, I know he's missed, I think, the past like 3 or 4 games. I don't remember exactly when it happened. But yeah, I mean, if I had to take a guess of the NFC, the 7 teams that are making it: Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Vikings, Buccaneers, 49ers, Seattle. Those are my 7. I I do want the Detroit Lions to somehow make a playoff run. I think the best they can go is 9-8 and squeak into the playoffs. I don't will they? I don't know. They still have to play. I believe they still have to play Minnesota and Green Bay, even though Green Bay's not that good this
I
year.
mean, they've turned it
Um,
around when they needed to, though.
yeah, I
This
mean,
last like 6 weeks.
they have 7 losses on the year, and I was looking it up the other day. 5 of their 7 losses are decided by under a touchdown, so they're always in close games.
Which is surprising too. I would not have picked them to even be 5-7 right now. If anything, I'd predict them to be where the Bears are at or lower. I would.
I pre- I think I predicted them to finish 9-8 this year just because, well, I like the Lions, but I don't know. I just thought they had a solid coach and a solid team around them. And yeah, Dan Campbell, their head coach, is, I don't know if he's the best head coach in football. I mean, but he has a good leadership quality to him. And I mean, if the Lions had a better defense, they'd probably have a winning record, but their defense is terrible. So,
Well, I know at one point early in the season I think it was like week 4 or something. They had the number one ranked offense and the last ranked defense,
yep, yep,
which is
that's
crazy.
definitely. Yeah. They're averaging like 35 points a game, but letting up like 41 or something stupid. I mean, I
That's
don't think those were the
crazy, man.
numbers, but yeah, they're I just hope they can finish off the season going like 4-1.
And then honestly
And
on the
then
AFC, I don't think
yeah.
in the AFC, I don't think, dude, I don't know if I want to get on the Jets hype yet or not. I don't think it's gonna follow through.
I want them to make it in. I think they have the longest active playoff drought in the NFL. They haven't made it in like a decade plus. So I'm hoping they make it, and they're gonna have to really rely on their defense. Although Mike White, he's definitely better than Zach Wilson. Um, he's honestly he's not he puts up a lot of yards. Actually, I know he had that one game last year too where he threw like for 400 yards or something ridiculous. I mean, he's been putting up 300 consistently since he's been playing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I want them to make it in. So in like my AFC prediction, as of right this second, I do have them in, but probably as a 7. But it's tough. I mean, because you have the Chiefs are going to make it, the Titans are probably they're going to make it, the Ravens will make it, the
Bills,
Bengals probably, yeah, the Bills,
Dolphins.
Dolphins, and then yeah, I guess the
Because
Jets,
Tua's
right?
been
Because who
playing
else?
pretty out of his mind this season.
Yeah, Tua has been. I mean, yeah. I
Especially
mean,
for
you have
what
Tyreek
everyone
Hill.
expects out of him. With Tyreek
Yeah,
Hill, too.
their head coach, McDaniel, I believe is his name, Mike McDaniel. He's probably gonna win Coach of the Year. He should. He's turned that team. I mean, they were a playoff team. Well, they didn't make the playoffs, but they were like right there last year. But they've just he's just been a good coach. I see him all over like the sports TikTok. He's just always there.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him, but I just know that program's completely turned, or that franchise completely turned around over like the last 3 seasons. It's been a very
So I
quick
believe
progression.
Tua was really demotivated coming into this season, and I believe he got a bunch of film for him just to watch of him just making really good plays to just show him like, no, you are a good quarterback, you belong in this league type of thing. And it motivated Tua going into the start of the season, which people are saying because of him being a head coach, it basically motivated him, which is what you're seeing right now, which is a lot of productivity out of him because he was going down, at least in my opinion, prior to this season. He was just going down as that quarterback that was going to be known as drafted before Justin Herbert. That's what he was going down as. And now he's kind of showing like he's a top quality quarterback in this league.
He just needed a receiver like Hill, I think, really to, because he's been letting him fly since Tyreek Hill's been in Miami.
Oh yeah, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are definitely the best combo
I
wide
completely
receivers in
forgot all
football, I would
season
say.
that they've had Waddle, dude.
He's been
That's bad
good.
NFL knowledge.
He's been good. I would say they're the best duo right now in football. I can't think of another duo that would be better off the top of my head. Some people would say like Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, but Gabe Davis is huge hit or miss type of wide receiver.
I would argue
Um,
Jamar Chase is right there for top wide receiver too.
oh, the Bengals have a good, yeah, that's true. They have Jamar Chase. They're three receivers: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. They're
Yeah.
all really good. Um,
Dude, I
but
think
yeah,
that's gonna
no,
be the interesting thing in the AFC is the Bengals, Browns, and Ravens. Because I obviously probably the Bengals and Ravens for sure, but I truly believe even though Watson didn't have a great game, it was literally all defense and special teams. I think he's gonna be
I mean,
fine. I see a lot of people that are talking shit that he's not coming back as a good quarterback and stuff like that, and that he's not going to be good, especially after what everybody just saw. But it's his first week back at playing an actual NFL game in I think
right.
18 months now. So I think he's going to be fine. You don't just lose all your touch. He wasn't didn't look scared, didn't look like he was afraid to make quick decisions and let it fly downfield. But I think he's going to be completely fine. And I think the Browns might. They got a chance to probably not necessarily win out, but I think they only lose 1 or 2 games the rest of the season.
Well, if they lose, they're 5-7 right now, and if they lose, let's say one game, so they'd be at best 9-8. It's the AFC is so competitive because okay, you have the Chiefs, they're gonna make it. The
Yep.
Titans are gonna win their division because the AFC South is terrible.
Yep.
The Ravens or Bengals will win the AFC North, and the other team, the Ravens or Bengals, one of them will also probably be a wild card. And then you have the Bills, the Dolphins. So right there, that's what, six teams, I think.
Yeah.
So then it would be, and the Jets would probably be the favorite right now. So I guess if the Browns made it, they'd probably have to potentially go undefeated the rest of the season just to go 10-7
To
and get
probably
in.
lock in a wild card.
Yeah. 9-8 might get you into the playoffs. But I'd have to see who's the Cleveland Browns remaining schedule. I know they play the Bengals this week, and then they play the Ravens after that. Then they play the Saints, who are not very good. Commanders, they're not bad. And then they have the Steelers, um, divisional game. Although the Steelers aren't that great this year.
Dude,
So, yeah,
I'm sorry, what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say. I mean, their schedule isn't like terribly difficult or remaining schedule, but there's three divisional games in there, and divisional games they're always just tough for everybody.
For sure. I'm just interested to really see how that plays out, though. Because I definitely think they can do it. I think they can at least go with only one loss.
I think if they do lose, it would be this weekend. If they beat the Bengals, that's their toughest game they have left for the season is this weekend. Because the Ravens, their defense isn't great. Lamar Jackson got injured. I forgot about that actually. He got injured. I don't know if he's playing this weekend. I haven't really looked into him at all, but I know he was hurt. And the Ravens, even though they're 8-4, I just feel like they're not exciting. You're not predicting the Ravens to go anywhere if they make the playoffs. At least I wouldn't, just because they have no offensive weapons. They're besides Lamar Jackson, their wide receiver core is terrible. Um, their defense, like I said, is not great. So I'm just surprised they're actually eight
I
and four
just
because the way that
I didn't want
they
to cut
don't
you
look
off, but
like.
I just clicked on the Ravens thing too. It says Dobbins is out this week.
Was he not playing again? I think he's like not played at all this year, but like twice. I feel like.
I mean, he's been. I'm pretty sure, but I know he's just out again. I don't even know. Yeah, it's knee still.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's doubtful, so Tyler Huntley's going to be playing.
I mean, that's big. At this point in the year, that's really big if both those guys don't play this week. Because I mean, it says here.
Well, JK's barely played this year. They've been using Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake a lot this year because JK he only has 123 rushing yards in the year. It's not. I think he's only played like he's only played 4 games. It looks like he hasn't played since the middle of October.
Which is definitely a big loss for them. I know they've been all right, but I think if they had him in there too.
Well, I know Gus Edwards. Well, Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake. They've been all right. They haven't been anything spectacular, but they've been useful enough for running backs. Um,
If you were to pick, I guess we can do this really quick. We can do picks for who you think's coming out of the AFC and NFC, like the two teams or something for the championships.
Super Bowl.
Well, for the
Um.
conference championships.
Oh, okay. Um. So AFC, like I said, I think well, I said before, I think the playoffs would be the Chiefs, Titans, Ravens, and Bengals. Um, Bills, Dolphins, Jets. I think the team that comes out of there. Uh, I said preseason it would be the Bills, so I guess I'll stick with them. And then NFC, it's gonna be Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Vikings, Buccaneers, Niners, and Seattle. I think the team that comes out of there. You know, some people say the Buccaneers, even though their record won't show it just because of who they have on their
But
team.
with Tom Brady, there's always that chance.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, would it be the Eagles?
I'm
I would
riding the hype
say,
with the Eagles because Jalen Hurts and that whole team has just been looking crazy this
yeah,
year.
yeah. I mean, I think the strongest team in the NFC is the Dallas Cowboys, if we're just going based off of everything. Um, but the 49ers could also be. I don't know how Brock Purdy's going to be. And I also don't know when Jimmy's coming back because I know he has a broken foot. But if I remember correctly, they said he'll be ready at some point in the playoffs, assuming that they make it, which they probably will. But I don't think the Niners would go to the Super Bowl anyway. I just think they'd make things tough for teams. So yeah, I would say it's either going to be the Eagles or Cowboys. It's going to be an NFC East team, and I would want the Cowboys just because they haven't been to the Super Bowl in God knows how long.
I just don't believe
But
it.
no, they're always eliminated in the first round. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna say Bills. I'll go Bills Eagles, I guess.
For me, I think I really think Joey B is gonna do it again.
You think that they're gonna go back?
I think so.
I thought the Bengals are gonna be like because they started off pretty slow. I mean, they're 8-4 now, obviously.
And Joey Burrow was coming off injury at the beginning of the season too,
Yeah.
or rehab. I forget if it was like a surgery or something. I think he had.
I just honestly, I would just want to see the Jets finally make it back into the playoffs. I mean, if a whole, I would want the Bills to win the Super Bowl just because they've never had. I like to see teams that have never won before win. So that would be the Bills.
It always
Bengals, I
makes it
guess, never won.
interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's just it's better for the sport to see new teams in a championship game, and especially a new team win a championship. It's just better for it.
I mean, Josh Allen's definitely got. I mean, last year he was like a few plays away from beating Kansas City.
13,
That was
13
such a
seconds away.
yeah. That was crazy, man. I remember seeing that live and I was just mind blown because I was like, man, Mahomes is finally going down.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
no, I dude, you can't ever doubt him.
and they praised Buffalo for having the best defense in football last year, and they just let them walk downfield in 13 seconds to go into overtime,
That's
and
Patty Mahomes.
then in overtime, obviously the Chiefs won. Which actually, I think they changed their rule because of that game. Because it used to be touchdown wins it in overtime, even if the other team doesn't even get the opportunity to touch the ball. They changed that this year because of it.
Yeah.
Because they were saying it wasn't fair that the Bills had lost that way.
I mean, I don't think it's. I'm glad they finally changed that because I hated that rule.
It is, yeah, it is dumb. It is. I mean, I personally think they should just play the full overtime. Because what is it, 10 minutes? I think they should just play it out. But because that's what most sports do is you just play the full time. Like in basketball, for example, the 5 minutes you play the full 5 minutes. Um, but I know their whole reasoning is because of the contact of football, and it's obviously
Yeah.
basketball to football. It's a lot more contact and concussion wise and everything in football.
I just think at least changing that rule is that's enough. Where I'm happy with what it
Yeah,
is now.
it's more of a chance, or a better giving a team another chance.
I mean, for the longest time, that rule was fine because it was more of a defense oriented game for 40 years, 50 years. But the last like decade, it's became such an offensive game to where it's like if you get the ball first, it's crazy to say you win if you score first, or I guess a touchdown anyway, not a field goal. But
Yeah, because old school football. I mean, if you go look at like an old school quarterback that everyone says, "Oh, they're so great." If you go look at their numbers and compare it to like a current day quarterback, the
that's
current day quarterback
insane.
always has a lot higher numbers. Dan Marino, I believe, is like the first big passing quarterback to come into the NFL that like threw for thousands of yards, like 4,000 plus yards in a season. He was, I think, one of the first people to do that. And now that's a normal thing to see is someone throw for like 4,000.
Yeah, it's the same way at pretty much all level of football. Because with college, it's the same way now. Like 15 years ago, Troy Smith won a Heisman with like I think 2,800 yards passing or something like that. And now it's like, yeah, you better have about 4,000, 3,500.
Yeah, I don't even know who leads the college football and everything. Oh, it's that guy in Washington, actually, isn't it? I think
For
so.
passing.
Yeah, Michael Penix. I believe it's him. He's like 4,400 or something. I don't know.
It's just so crazy.
Yeah,
All right, well, you're locked in with who'd you say, Phillies and Bills?
yeah, I'll go Philly, Philly Bills, and Bills win.
I got Bengals and Eagles, and I think, dude, I have all my hype in Joey B. I might regret saying it, but I don't even care. I think he's getting him a ring this year and going back.
Yeah,
I got faith in them
I
running it.
I don't see it, but I mean maybe.
I just hope here in a couple weeks I can brag that I made a really good fucking pick. I guess really here in about like a month and a half.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder who would make a surprise playoff push that like no one talks about. That's probably gonna make the playoffs.
I would
Um,
say the Dolphins. I would say not a lot of people think that they could go.
that's that's what I was gonna say. It's the Dolphins. Dolphins, or I don't think they would just, but they're the team no one talks about, the Titans.
I mean,
But they're just so reliant on Derrick Henry to have a good game. Because if he doesn't have a good game,
it's a
they're gonna
loss.
lose. Yeah.
I mean, I could see the Titans too for sure, and that's definitely more of a underrated pick than the Dolphins because there's at least people know the Dolphins are really fucking good this year, and I'm sure there's
Yeah.
a good amount of people honestly picking them to at least win a playoff game or two this year.
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins, a lot of people would say, even right this second, could arguably say they're a top five team in the NFL, just period right now. I don't think they are, but some people could make that case for it.
Oh, there's definitely a case.
Whereas Titans, no one's really putting them in the top five, unless you're a Titans fan. So they're probably, I would say they're top 10, but they're probably the bottom half of the top 10, like number nine or something.
I would say
But
right now with
they're,
everything, either also the Seahawks.
yeah, I was going to say Seattle for the NFC would be the team that would be a dark horse team, I guess, if you will, to do something in there.
Because
The
dude, it
Giants,
really is crazy to me how
doing
Geno
okay.
Smith's playing.
Yeah, it is. And I was wondering, I was like, why is he so good all of a sudden? And my only thought, he was thrown into the NFL with high expectations. I believe he was actually at one point projected to be the number one overall pick in 2013.
Yeah,
He
he
fell
was.
he fell all the way to early second round.
I remember
And
because West
then
Virginia started like 4-0 or 5-0 when he was playing for them in college, and then out of nowhere they just started getting smacked. And I think they finished like 6-6 or something. Or
it's kind of like the Kentucky Wildcats this year because they had Will Levis, who I think is the next Sam Darnold. But um, the yeah, so he came into the league, high expectations, was the starter for the Jets as a rookie. I believe started his second season. He was bad. He then got benched and was a backup for the rest of his career until this point. So my thought was if he was a backup, and he was a backup to some decent quarterbacks, he was the backup to Russell Wilson one before he was bad. He was the backup to, I believe, Philip Rivers in San Diego or the LA, I guess now. And he just got a bunch of learning experience, is my thought. And he's just putting that all into play now, 10 years later, basically. And it's just paying off for him. That's the only thing I could come up with as to why is he good now. I mean, you could say it's also coaching too.
yeah, for sure, coaching has something to do with it probably. But I honestly think there's a good chance he probably plays like this for at least 4 or 5 more years because he's still like I think what 30 right now or something like that, early 30s.
He's probably, yeah, early, like 31, 32.
So he could have like 4 or 5 more seasons probably of playing like this.
If that's the case, Seattle at least has a quarterback because, again, everyone is just like, they're having two backups fight for the starting job. And Geno Smith is probably, I would say, a top five quarterback in the NFL right
Right now, for sure. The record doesn't
now.
do
Yeah.
him justice for how he's played, honestly.
No. I believe he's the most accurate in terms of completion percentage. I believe he's number one in the NFL, actually. I think he completes like 70% of his passes,
I heard
which
that.
is really high.
I remember a couple of weeks ago I heard that, so it wouldn't surprise me if he still has that. Or at least top
Yeah.
2 or 3.
I think it's him and Joe Burrow for the top two.
It's going
So,
to be
which is, yeah.
interesting after this week.
I wonder who does Seattle play this upcoming week? I'm not even sure, to be honest. They play the Okay, yeah, they should win. The Panthers. That's like a free win for everybody.
Yeah, that's. I
Oh
would
yeah.
say that those are my dark horse picks. I think we probably both agree. Well, I guess for AFC, either Titans or Dolphins. I could see winning or making
Yeah.
a playoff run, and then in the NFC for sure, Seattle.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you want to, here we can. That's all I got at least. Unless you have anything
Y-
else you want to add on
Yeah,
NFL stuff.
no, I'm good. Yeah, we can move on to basketball if you want.
All right, we'll get into NBA to end it off here, and then we'll start talking about like NCAA and everything on the next one that we do. Cause
Yeah.
see,
So basketball,
I just
I would say the
watched.
biggest thing.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, I was just gonna say the biggest thing I feel like basketball is just the Lakers being the Lakers right now. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
10 and 15. You have LeBron James. You have Russell. Well, he's washed up, but you have Anthony Davis too, and they're 10 and 15. I mean, they started off terribly. and
They
then they
have
started to
played
pick
a
it up a
lot
little bit.
better.
Yeah, I mean they're on a three-game losing streak, but they did pick it up a little bit. Even Golden State is surprising at 13-13, and I think it's because Golden State's it's not Steph Curry, obviously. Klay Thompson has not been playing well, and then their surrounding cast besides those two,
It looks nothing like
like
last
all,
year's team.
it, yeah, it doesn't, and a lot of their like draft picks because they had a lot of high draft picks in the past few years because there was a season Steph Curry got hurt, and they just everything. So they had those players. They're just not doing anything. They had James. They took James Wiseman. I remember a couple of years ago with the second overall pick. He was in the G League earlier this year because of how bad he was doing in the NBA. He's just not good as of right this second. Anyway, I know he's still young, but I just like the way the West looks right now. Besides those two teams being a surprise, the top six teams right now are all teams that have never won a championship. So,
Especially the Kings and Pelicans.
oh yeah, the Kings especially. I want them to make the playoffs.
I'm
They
just
have the
glad that
longest.
Zion's been healthy this year too, dude. It's
Hell yeah. I mean, he'll probably be healthy for at least half the season because he's so injury prone. But
he's
he,
just so big.
yeah,
You
the size
cannot
of
be
like a
280
football lineman.
pounds, my man.
He's, I mean, honestly, it's so early in the season still, but he's probably going to be talked about for MVP as long as he stays healthy because they're the number one team and he's arguably their best player. If
Oh,
not
for
him, it would
sure.
probably be Brandon Ingram.
I mean, I'd say the MVP. I mean, I know there's an actual thing for it, but right now my MVP in no specific order, like for top five, would probably go Tatum, Giannis, Luca, Zion, and probably Ja right now. Honestly,
Uh, I was gonna say the same pretty much as you. Might throw Devin Booker in there maybe, but the Suns. I feel like the Suns are because they have Chris Paul on their team, and he's like a cursed NBA player. They'll just make the playoffs and they'll probably lose in like the second round.
I truly believe the Suns just have the good enough team to always compete to get to the finals right now, but I don't think they have a team to win the finals, just like last year.
And then yeah, no, I mean, I'm a
Oh
Celtics
no,
fan, so
man,
I obviously am glad.
it was the Warriors last year that came out of the West.
Oh yeah, it was 2 years ago that they it was the Suns Bucks. The Suns started the season or series off, I believe, 2-0 and just lost four straight.
Because Giannis was playing out of his mind.
Yeah. Another surprise team, the Nets.
Yeah,
I know they're 15-12, but that team's a mess. I don't You have Kyrie Irving being like Kanye West of basketball on everything. You have Ben Simmons who
can't
he's
shoot a basketball.
yeah, he can. I could probably like yeah, I could probably beat him in like a shootout. He's just that bad. And he's just not useful whatsoever on off. He's a good defender, but on offense, he's such a liability. But
Yeah,
then Kevin Durant, who yeah, you never know what if he's going to be asking for a trade in the next week or not. But
dude, it
I
sucks
mean, they're
too.
making
Because I wanted to
yeah,
see Ben Simmons come on. Like if he could just even be somewhat reliable on offense, like just regularly give somebody 18 or something like that with 35-40% shooting. Like that Nets team would be so good if he could just give you 15 to 20 points every night, no questions.
yep. And I don't think he's ever done that. Actually, I think the best he's ever put up in his career, off the top of my head, is like 16 um, per game.
And if he could just do
But
that,
yeah, it'd be a lot better. I mean, I think he's coming. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't watched much. Well, I haven't really paid attention to the Nets in terms of like them playing. But as far as I was gonna say I wasn't even sure if he was starting, but he is, although he's injured right now. Um, he's only averaging 8 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 6 assists, which the points are low. The other stuff's not terrible, but I don't know. He's not. I've never even thought, even when he was on the 76ers, I had never thought he was like a threat of a basketball player. Like he's not scary. Like, oh, they have Ben Simmons, he's dangerous.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at Kevin Durant, you're like, oh yeah, he's on their team. He's definitely going to do something.
And at any point when he needs to, he can give you like 30, 12, and 12.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I mean, they're just have a terrible chemistry over there. I'm just surprised that they're 15 and 12 because usually teams that are like that don't win, or they're at least a bottom team. Actually, the Miami Heat, they're 12 and 14, and they should be a lot better. Although I believe they're hurt.
Yeah, I don't know if they're what the injuries or anything looks like really this year, but I'm sure Miami will be fine if everybody's good.
They'd make it into the play-in as of right this second. But yeah, there's only the only surprise team right now. I would say the Chicago Bulls are a surprise team as well because I
With
thought
injuries and
they're
everything too.
they're solid, but yeah, they're hurt. Actually, no, they're not. They're not hurt, but
Isn't Lonzo still out?
yeah, he is because Alex Caruso's playing. But they still have Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic. Their bench isn't terrible. So I don't know why they're 10 and 14 because they actually have a good team. Um, and then obviously out west, Golden State Lakers don't really know what's going on there, specifically in the Lakers organization. But they just have a bunch of older players. A player I want to see come back to the NBA that, well, I feel like he should just be on a team that's going to potentially win because that's all he would go. Actually, two of them, DeMarcus Cousins and Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
I feel like they both deserve a ring.
Carmelo does for sure too, especially.
Yeah, he's just gonna get a ring and just get out of the NBA, retire. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins too, because that's if you go look at his most recent teams he's been playing for, it's all teams that are always like good. So he's just trying to ring chase and then probably retire.
Yeah, you don't blame somebody for that at the end of their career. But
No, yeah, Blake Griffin's doing it too. He's on the Celtics right now.
and I know they're not a sleeper team really, but just the Cavs, man,
I've been,
with the trade that they got in the off
oh yeah,
season with Donovan Mitchell, it's I truthfully think the Cavs could get to the. There's a chance they could get to the finals.
yeah,
Stumbling
they're
over
a
my words,
solid
but
team. Yeah, yeah. Well, they're a solid young team. They have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland,
Garland's
Evan
been balling
Mobley.
out.
Even off their bench, they still have Karis LeVert,
Kevin Love.
Kevin Love, who I'm surprised still is in the NBA. But um, yeah, I mean they have a solid young team. They're definitely going to be a team that's good for the next. They should be anyway for like the next 5+ years.
Because I
And
don't think
actually,
any of those guys are
surprising.
going anywhere either.
No, they probably wouldn't. The team. The surprising part is, so they traded Donovan Mitchell to the Jazz, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Jazz are going to be terrible." The Jazz, as of right this second, are the sixth seed in the West. And I know at one point they were the top seed out there. They just a little bit of a falling off for a little bit.
I look at Utah like the Dallas Cowboys, though. Every
Well, the
season, no
team that
matter
they
what.
just make it and just lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's them and the Clippers are like that. Although
It-
Clippers made the Western Conference Finals like 2 years ago or
I just
something.
don't understand Kawhi, man. I really fucking love Kawhi, but
He's been injured
you just
for
gotta
the past.
play, dude. I don't know if it's as bad as he says it is. I really want to believe him, take his word, but
Yeah, he's wonder, but even if he comes back, will he be as good? I mean, yeah, he's Kawhi Leonard. Everyone knows him as what he's been in the past. But I'm wondering because it's a serious injury. If he comes back, will he be as productive? I don't know.
I think he's
I'm
one of those
looking at.
guys that's always just gonna be good if he's healthy.
I mean, in the games he's played this year, obviously he was on a minutes restriction earlier, but recently not as much. He's been playing close to like 30 minutes of the game. He's only been putting up like 15, which isn't terrible. But
But
for
it's
Kawhi
not
Leonard,
Kawhi
who we know
stats.
is like 25 a game, he's like 10 shy. The one guy, this is kind of random, but since we're talking about like injured players, Jonathan Isaac on the Orlando Magic. He hasn't played in like 2 years, and I just hope he comes back because I like him as a player. He's a really good defender, but he hasn't played since I think the NBA bubble in 2020. It's the last time he ever stepped foot on a court.
I was completely unaware of that.
He hasn't played in forever.
Well, if I guess right now we can probably talk about like just prediction stuff for that. Like who do you
For
think's coming
NBA,
out of yeah. If you had to pick right now who's coming out of Eastern and Western Conference.
I would say, I mean, it's so early, uh, but out of the East, I'm gonna have to pick the Celtics. I like the Celtics. They're the team I like to pay attention to the most. Jason Tatum's probably the front runner for MVP as of right this second, I would say. Um, Out of the West, a team that I would want. I mean, I'm gonna be rooting for the Sacramento Kings because they're basically like the Detroit Lions of basketball. But out of the West, who I think is the best chance? I don't know. I mean, if they can stay healthy, the Pelicans do have a really good team. The Nuggets are another team that I think could do something as well.
For
Nikola
sure.
Jokic, obviously. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would think it would either be the Nuggets or Pelicans. I can't see the Grizzlies, even though the Grizzlies are good. They were good last year too, but I think they're definitely a beatable team for um, against like a top team that I think they're, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see them beating out a team like that. Even the Nuggets, I can't see them beating out a Nuggets in a 7 game series.
For me, I think I got to go with. I really want to say the Cavs, but that's my dark horse in the East. But I think the Bucks are gonna come out of the East, and in the West, as much as I really want Zion to come out of the West, I think ah man, it's tough, dude. I think I'm gonna probably go with the Suns out of the West. I think there's gonna be a rematch in the finals again this year.
Yeah, the West is difficult because it's a bunch of teams. Well, maybe minus the Suns and I mean, okay, so the Grizzlies, Suns, and Nuggets have all been good in the past few years, but they've never been made. Well, I guess maybe minus the Suns when they went to the championship. But the other teams, they've never really they don't really go anywhere when they make the playoffs. They kind of just make it and lose. Um, Even the Suns typically they just kind of make it and lose, but and it's just tough because they're all really close in the standings. Um, and it's yeah, again, it's gonna be weird because it's a team. The top six teams are teams you typically never ever see in the finals anyway. Or if they do make it to the finals, they lose.
Yeah, I just really, dude. Personally, I've been feeling this way for a couple of years. Well, ever since the Bucks won their first one. Even last year, I thought for sure. I mean, I know there was injuries. Who was it? Was it? It was Middleton that was hurt last year for the Bucks during the playoffs, right?
Yep. Yeah, he didn't play.
If they're healthy, man, I really think there's a good chance they run it back and Giannis gets another ring.
He's been playing this year. I mean, I haven't paid too much attention to basketball because it's early, and I've been putting most of my attention into the NFL. But I mean, he's been playing this year. I don't know if he's on minutes restriction. He's only played 4 games. It looks like he just came back, so he's only averaging 14 a game right now. But he's slowly. It's going to be like a little bit slow progression of him to get back into what Chris Middleton can be. This always happens. Come back from injury or just being out like Deshaun Watson for an extended period of time. You're always just slow
Yeah.
getting back into whatever you used to be.
But just with him and Holiday around him, dude, I think if they're completely healthy, that's gonna be a fun series to watch. But if it's
Yeah.
Celtics and Bucks again, which it probably will be.
And even Brooke Lopez, I have him on my fantasy team, and he's having one of his better seasons recently because Brooke Lopez is kind of older.
I feel
He's
like he had a
having
good
a
season when
really
they
good.
won too.
Well, he's having a really good defensive season. He's averaging like 3 blocks a game right now. Um, so he's having one of his better seasons recent.
Yeah, it's just gonna be. I don't know, man. I think NFL right now this has just been a wild year in sports.
Yeah, it
I think all
has.
around, like the college football playoffs right now, the 1 through 4, or just how everything's set up, to me is kind of
Oh,
wild. It's not the most.
I think with sports or the major sports anyway, uh, pro sports, the common theme I've seemed to like see is it's the year of the playoff drought finally ending. You had it with the Seattle Mariners in baseball. The New York Jets are potentially going to make the playoffs, and they have the longest one in football. Sacramento Kings have the longest one in basketball, although it's way too early still. They're
They're still number 5 in
definitely
the
in there.
rankings right now.
Yeah. And then, well, I don't know anything about hockey, but um, yeah, as far as those three sports go, it's all these teams that never go to the playoffs are all in the playoffs race right now or made it already.
And I mean, you got the Pelicans and the ones. The West is just with that.
Yeah, the West is weird right now because you would have who would have said the Pelicans would be at the top? You would have said, I mean, you probably would have said the Lakers for some people, but based off what they did last year,
Or Golden
you would
State.
probably think the Lakers would make the playoffs, but not whatever they are right now.
Yeah, I think the farther we go, man, with NFL and NBA, I think it's going to be wild years.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited to see what's going on with the NFL. Yeah, my fantasy team sucks, but I'm probably still excited to see what's going on with everything there.
Well, do you got anything else to add for anything? Any
Um,
any of the sports at all right now? I know we'll get in, like I
um,
said, to NCAA here soon.
yeah, college basketball is well, it's actually already a third of the way over, but yeah, it's still sort of early. Um, but no, not really. I don't have anything.
All right. Well, that's. I mean, I don't got anything else either. If you want, we can wrap this one up here and call it a day and run it back after we see how this weekend plays out.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, anybody that was tuned in for this, appreciate it. We're gonna keep trying to pump these out and get it better, get better production, kind of chop things up a little bit, make it just all around better. Go more in depth with stuff because we're, like I said, we're just free balling it right now. It's just kind of fun to just back and forth with nothing super serious to get into. But I mean, definitely once playoffs and stuff roll around, we can start breaking stuff down and talking about defense percentages or like points against, points for, and like just the more in depth stats and stuff. But appreciate everybody for tuning in and be back with another episode. Peace.